woman said something and the whole video start thinking, I'm like, are you sure yourself you're not guilty? She was like, when you put on an outfit, ask yourself, do I look sexy? Now she's not talking about do I look good or do I feel attractive, but she's saying do I feel seductive? So, and she said if by that standard, if you have any dress in your wardrobe that fits into that standard, then that dress has to go. When I read this line, I was like, I definitely have some clothes in my wardrobe that will go, and I'm like, well, maybe not feel sexy. I don't know right now, but because there was one thing Josh said here, there was a lot Joshua Harris, the guy that wrote I Kissed a Single Girl, was like, if only ladies understand where their dressing drives men to internally, like they will really do all their best to help them. So since now that you as a lady, you know the power of your dressing, you know where your dressing drives at that man to. These clothes that you have in your wardrobe that make you feel sexy or seductive, don't throw it away. Just pack it, put it in a box, and leave it out box. Husband's house dress. And when you get married, wear for your husband. It's your house. You get the gist? Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Zevidaa here. I vlog on lifestyle, my faith, DIY, and everything in between. And today's video is going to be a book review. And it's going to be episode 3 of this book review, titled On the Bride Wore White by Dannah Gresh. The subtitle is 7 Secrets to Sexual Purity. If you're yet to watch episode 1 and 2, the link is going to be in the description box, so you could watch it, and I'll recommend you go and watch it now so you understand what this video is all about and you can carry it along. So I'm reading 4 chapters in each video. So for this chapter, for this episode, I'll be recording, I'll be reviewing chapter 9 to 12. So let's read the celebration story for chapter 9. Samara Cone on staying public and vertical. After rededicating my life to Christ, I committed myself to remain pure until married and sought guidance from any Christian resource I could get my hands on. I recognized that And the Bride Wore White was written to a younger audience, but the title appealed to my heart, so I bought it. The most important concept I would always remember is to stay public and stay vertical. It seemed like such a simple concept, but if I heard those words when I was younger and guarded them in my heart, I would have saved myself from a lot of heartache. I finally had to lay my desires at God's altar and trust that He knew my heart better than anyone. 2 days after I made that commitment, God delivered my prince to me, and he happens to be my prayer partner's older brother. I'm happy to say that I am now married to my boss. Alright, so moving on to the main chapter, which is Purity is Governed by Values. Then I'll open up this chapter talking about how the great weakness God has placed in guys and how they yearn for the female's body. So there's a researcher that was carried on sex study at the University of Chicago, and he came out with 54% of men think about sex a lot. And there was a humorous guy say, David Barry, and says that just means that the remaining 46 must be lying, because every research on sex studies will just give you one result: men think about sex a lot. She made us understand that that's not to say that a girl does not also yearn for a guy's body too, because just sometimes when you see them open their shirts and you see those biceps, sometimes the guy's just like, wow, and you're like, are you calling an ambulance? What she's saying is that guys are naturally the aggressor. They are much more attracted to physical things, like they're much more drawn to you. It's just like, you get what I'm saying, right? But let me just explain deeper. Like, on a scale of 1 to 10, 9 out of 10 guys will be drawn more to ladies' physique than a lady being drawn to a guy's physique. And she was like, sometimes, most of the time, a lady's appearance, dressing, attitude, knowingly or unknowingly, subtly, actually not helping the guys again in their thinking, in what's already dominating. It's like something's already dominating my thought, and then I'm seeing you, and your parents, this is just driving me more into that thought. Like, you're just not helping. Like, I need help here. You're supposed to help me. So yeah, she said that since we're all God's children, you're God's princesses, this chapter might look as if it's a bit more focused on the ladies, and a part of it that touches on the guys, but 90% of this chapter is focused on the ladies. So she said, since you're a princess, you need to be sure to conduct yourself as one. It means you conduct yourself as a princess in your dressing, in everything, especially your dressing, because that's the first thing people would see when they come up in contact with you. So she listed there are 3 areas in which girls are forgetting to conduct themselves as princesses. I mean, you're daughter of the king. Your father is the king of all kings. That makes it the princess of all princesses. Do you get that? You can't afford to conduct yourself anyhow. You can't afford to dress just anyhow. I remember there was one prominent man of God who said there was one question when he came in contact with it in the Bible that Christ has redeemed him as king and priest. He says that passage foiled his everyday appearances. It says such that if he wants to step out with any dress, he will first ask himself, will a king dress like this? If the answer is no, he said he's going back, turning back and changing. So the same way, I've not gotten down to the 3 main areas where you're segmented, but you already know what it is, right? The first one is wardrobe. So the same way with a lady, if you would, let me not jump ahead of myself. Let's go right into that first area. So the first area is the royal wardrobe. Yeah, she says that the fashion world today screams sex for poor guys out there who struggle to live a lifestyle of purity. Honestly, I mean, look at it now. The zip is going down. The slit of the skirt is coming up. And whatever we are going, I really hope they don't meet one of these days. Like, I really hope the slit does not join the zip. And everything about fashion is just all screaming for sex, and then it's just not helping the average guy live a sexually pure life. Like I said, we are going to focus more on ladies because 90% of the time you're actually in control of this. 90% of the time. So she says here, she was like, and since clothes really affects girls and women in the same way, we continue to wear the latest trend. So because if I wear these skirts, I'm not affected. If I wear these mini skirts, I'm not affected. We'll just feel like, nothing spoiled, and then we'll continue to wear it the same way. But she was like, let's get some perspective by looking at another age. So yeah, there's a story here. Let me quickly read it out. She said, Little Woman was written when the fashion was to push a young woman's bust line up her neckline. In the book Beautiful, Meg Matthew went to Annie Moffat's coming out party. The other girls attending convinced her to let them dress her, complete with a corset and low-cut neckline. Meg blushed at herself when she looked in the mirror, determined not to let the way she was dressed affect the person she was. But it did, very much later. Later, Meg admitted the way she was dressed had made her behave badly. I want to pause because there's really a connection with how you dress and how you behave. So, for example, you pick a bus conductor, someone who lives all their lives on the street. Just pick them up like they're used to rough life, dressing anyhow. Just put suit on them and put them to sit in one corner. Trust me, they will be well behaved. Like, automatically, if the minute they want to misbehave, they will force us to take off their suits. Do you get that? It's just like they want to tell you that, I'm not well, let me remove my clothes. Are you saying that? They have to remove their clothes so as to enter the character of the non-well behaved guy they want to enter. Because suits automatically explains a well behaved person. Do you get me? So here this girl was saying that as much as she tried as much as possible not to make her dress determine who she was, but she realized it did, and then she behaved badly as a result of that. Let's continue with the story. In the movie version of Little Woman's Meg, the mother puts a perspective in telling Meg, if you feel your value lies in being merely decorative, I fear you will find yourself one day believing that's all you are. On your date in your everyday life, do you want to be merely decorative, a trait that will someday fade away? I just kept thinking about it. Do you really want to portray yourself as just that decorative person, and that's all to you? And when you want to portray yourself as that, it means you spend every dime you have on clothing, accessories, jewelries. Jewelries is an accessory. and all of that, and all of this is always to fade away. Makeup, beauty, everything will fade away to get to the stage that there's no matter of makeup you would apply, the wrinkles will still show. So she was like, if you're going to put all your attention, or your time, or your effort in how you look, there's every tendency to want to think or believe that that is all your value. This man said something and I will just start thinking, I'm like, are you sure yourself you're not guilty? She was like, when you put on an outfit, ask yourself, do I look sexy? Now she's not talking about do I look good or do I feel attractive, but she's saying do I feel seductive? So, and she said if by that standard, if you have any dress in your wardrobe that fits into that standard, then that dress has to go. When I read this line, I was like, I definitely have some clothes in my wardrobe that will wear, and I'm like, well, maybe not feel sexy. I don't know right now, but I mean, do I? I don't know. When I was reading this, I just said that I have some dresses in my wardrobe that will just fit in some category. So she was like, if you have any dress like that, remember you put on, and the question you ask yourself is, do I feel sexy or do I feel seductive? Then that kind of dress has to go. Now, I'll put it this way. She didn't say it about, say, I'll just add it that, see, if you have that kind of dress in your wardrobe, since you now know the power of your dressing, because there was one thing Josh said here, there was a lot, Joshua Harris, the guy that wrote I Kissed a Single Girl, was like, if only ladies understand where their dressing drives men to internally, like, they will really do all their best to help them. So since now that you as a lady, you know the power of your dressing, you know where your dressing drives at that man to, these clothes that you have in your wardrobe that make you feel sexy or seductive, don't throw it away. Just pack it, put it in a box, and leave it out box, husband's house dress. And when you get married, wear for your husband. It's your house. She gets gist. It's your husband. Like, Holy Spirit has practically blown the whistle that, yeah, I'll release them. So that's what I'm just saying, like, go through your wardrobe. If the aim, whenever you dress, if the aim is like, I feel sexy, then there has to be a check somewhere. So the second category is the princess kingdom. So she was like, so when you're dressed and you're ready to go out, where should you go to? A princess should always stay within the confines of her kingdom, where she's safely guarded under the watchful eye of the public. Yeah, thinking about it now, if you truly believe you're a princess, princess don't just go out anyhow or go to anywhere. Yeah, I'm trying to think about it now. When a princess is going out, she's usually guarded. So if you see yourself as a princess, I mean, you don't just go anywhere, anyhow, without informing anyone. Do you get that? And looking at it now, bringing back to the story of Dannah in the Bible, when she went out with her friend and then she met her doom with the prince of Shechem. Yeah, prince of Shechem. So the same, if you view yourself as God's princess, you will not just go anywhere, anyhow, unguardedly. She said, as I have conducted periodic retreats, the girls tell me two things about where they will go on date. First, they tell me that nothing good ever happens when you're with guys alone. I feel like I need to say something about this. Yeah, I actually understand the part of nothing good happening when you're with guys all alone, but I better to say it's not all the time. Maybe 95% of the time, but not 100% of the time. And now I say it's like about situations where I'm about to be with guys alone in the confines of an house or in a room. Not a room, just a room. In a house, and then nothing happened. Do you believe that? I need you to believe it. It sounds very unbelievable right now. I really need you to believe it. So she'll say that, but again, I get the part that secrecy is the power of sexual sin. I'm telling you. See, no matter how the guy is saying, I cannot wait, I want to touch you. Once you're outside, his brain will just reset and wait. But the moment you enter a room on a closed area, like it's like his brain tells him, oh yeah, we can unleash right now. So I try to get up, and I would not subscribe to that on the basis of, if you don't know this person very well, or if you know yourself again, you know your weaknesses, do not try that. Do not try that, okay? Then the second thing she said the girls told her was that nothing good ever happens in an horizontal position. Let me describe horizontal position for you. You guys are lying down. Like, she said the girls even told her that it doesn't even matter if their other friends are there or crowds are there, but once they're just lying down, like, there's a tendency to want to fall. Like, and you know that lying down state or laying down state is like it's a vulnerable position. Like, all your guards are down. Like, you just let them loose. So at that time, to even stand your ground, it's so easy and so sweet to compromise. To stand your ground at that time becomes almost impossible. So as much as possible, be cool, please. Flee horizontal position with someone you're not married to. If you're single, flee by all means. It doesn't matter if it's just my friend. There's just something about that position. I was lying down. So flee. So the third category is the conduct of a princess, and she was talking about how a princess has to just behave herself. I've seen you don't go about chasing guys. Let me share this practical story with you. There was a time I needed to change school. I was in a girls' only school. I needed to change to Miss Only School. That was during my secondary school days. That's what they call high school. Yeah, high school. And I was going to Miss School. Let me tell you one prayer point I prayed. I said, Lord, please don't let me ever fall in love with a guy to the point that I cannot control myself. You can blame it on maybe the books I've read, or I just knew that it was so uncultured and so uncalled for a lady to be throwing herself at a guy. Like, I hate it. I dislike it. I literally had to pray that prayer that God, please don't ever let me be caught up in that web of emotions. Maybe you're so deep in love, but then you just want to throw yourself at that guy. I know the way it works. That guy, it's very rare for them to love you back, because guys love competition. Why do I feel as if I'm preaching a relationship? Guys love competition. So when you're not just making it yourself all available, like they're like, there's nothing to compete. You're like, I don't feel challenged. So they're like, please. Then apart from that, it's the meaning of you as a lady. Like, you don't know your worth, you don't know your value. Hello? Even for your female friends, you shouldn't want to even throw yourself at be my friend, be my friend. Friendship is mutual. The same old relationship. And if both of you find a common ground, probably he loves to read books, you love to read before you know it. You guys are sharing books, you're talking about all sorts, and then you're friends. You don't have to throw yourself. Don't do it. Don't do it. Come. Don't do it. Okay? So that's the third category for that chapter. Now there was one thing she did here, which what's for the scripture the picture of, you can see that steps to physical intimacy. Number 9 is sexual intercourse. Number 8 is experimental nakedness. 7 is petting, white clothed. 6 is open-mouthed, passionate kissing. A new desire awakens with this. 5, kissing on the cheek or softly kissing on the lips, pardon me. These are sweet, innocent signs of affection. Number 4, hands on the shoulder and hands on the waist. But she did not add this. I added this because I didn't see it on this, so I'm just calling it 3.5. Hugging. Number 3, holding hands. Number 2, talking with a guy. Number 1, looking at a guy and making eye contact. A good sign that you're interested. And they might smile back. Now you might be wondering why she had to list it downward like that, 9, 8 like that. So she said something and she was like, draw the line where you're going to stop before you even maybe enter a relationship, or before you even get to that place. It's just like, look, if you look at it now from number 1 down to 3, you might just be like, we are stopping at 3.5. Hugging. Like, I'm just look at this guy in the face or in the eye. I'm going to talk to this guy. I'm going to hold his hands. I'm going to hug him. And that's all. You see anything of that to do with hands on the shoulder, kissing on the neck? Nah. So she said, draw the line on where you're going to put an end to, like where it's going to be like, this is our boundary within this relationship. Nothing goes above, it can go below. But nothing goes above. So she said one thing. She said it's always easier to make that decision before you enter a relationship. If you have to wait till you're stick neck deep into that temptation, you're not making a decision when to stop, trust me, you would go overboard. You would not stop. Then she said something here again. She was like, if for example you're bent that okay, what's just going to be our own is just kissing on the cheeks softly, that's number 5. If that's where you want it to be your final bus stop, she was like, let you move it down a little bit, like stay at okay, this is going to be our final bus stop, number 4. So if the worst comes to the worst, you guys get to number 5, you're still safe, but then your head comes back to being correct. So that's about the line. So that brings us to the end of chapter 9. So moving on to chapter 10, titled Secret 4 now. Purity speaks boldly. The subtitle is Preparing Your Tongue for Date. And let's read our celebration story. Elizabeth Ramon, standing boldly. I'm a senior in high school. I've never been kissed and I'm not ashamed of it. I used to be though. When I started high school, I was guy crazy. There was one boy in particular that I liked a lot. I tried everything that I could think of to get him to like me. I confided all my feelings in him, partly because I did not know what to do with them, and partly in hopes that it would make him like me. Poor guy. But now, I'm free to be guy free. I could have never reached this point if I wouldn't have read this book. So talking about purity speaking boldly, she was like preparing your tongue for dates, that's subtitle. What she was trying to hint at for this chapter is learning the art of conversation, of communication, the art of conversing. Yeah, that's better put. She was like, and she said here, she was like, she realized that young women who have learned the art of conversation are less likely to cut into the compromising physical situation. I think that was one thing that actually worked with you, like actually it's moment of silence with someone I have feelings for. So I just wait for something to say. We must not be quiet though. But sometimes you should enjoy the moment of silence, but it shouldn't be too much because it's in that moment of silence that the guy is not staring and it's like, her lips are well set. And then he's not imagining all kind of things. So she was like, learn your art of conversing, read wide, find topics, find something else. You're just going to talk, and then you're just enjoying the topic or what is being said. And then she added that she was like, if you truly desire to live a lifestyle of sexual purity, then you will learn to speak boldly. And I concur, honestly, I concur. Especially in this generation. It has always been in every generation, just getting worse day by day, sha. But okay, I'll see it. Especially in this generation where it looks as if it's very difficult to find someone who's determined to live a lifestyle of purity, but you have to learn to speak boldly. You might get the look of you're weird or you're fanatic or something like that, but regardless, learn to stand for your truth, believe in your truth, speak your truth. This is my stand. You all can go hug Transformer. Don't hug Transformer, but just tell them this is my stand. I won't compromise, okay? But yeah, she put a warning, like warning. You know that blinking sign, like as much as you want to discuss, you want to learn the art of conversing, the art of communication, put a line between what you would not say. Do you hear that? There's some things that I've changed. God is working on me. I'm learning to be much more open up. But there are some things that I dreaded to say with or to a guy because I felt like, these things are personal, yo. They're personal. And you're like, make sure you know the things you will not say, like anyhow. Let's enjoy a moment of silence. When enjoy this moment of silence, so instead of just having to say this topic just because I want to talk. And she said one of the things she said she wasn't going to say was like, she said she was also going to discuss marriage with him. So there was one as if she's pressuring him. But let me balance. So she said, because when she said that, I kind of had issues with it because I was like, if you're dating someone, you should want to talk marriage. But here's what she said she did. She would ask him questions like, how many children do you plan on having in the future? And he was like, maybe 6 or 7. She'd be like, I actually plan on having 4. I'm cool with 4. She says, that way, they can move to another topic. And that way, she's just discussing our view for our home Sunday. And he's discussing his view for his home Sunday, not their view together. Just in case it doesn't work out. So that way, it doesn't look as if you're like, how many children should we have together? Can you see the difference right now? So then she also said one of the things she wasn't going to discuss with him was sex. She wasn't going to discuss sex, physical contact, or her physical desires with him. Like at the point she had to write, please, oh please. She said, remember the power of your tongue. The brain is the greatest sexual organ. When guys are visually stimulated and when you and I are emotionally stimulated, specific chemicals are released within the brain to cause us to desire sexual activity. The one thing that has the potential to stimulate both male and female is conversation. So she was like, determine not to talk about your desires as it make it very difficult to control it. Sometimes you just feel like, when I tell him, I just feel like kissing you right now. Guys, my job. Those topics can be very interesting. Sometimes that topic you just want to hear. You just want to sit and watch them and then hear you say, I dreamt of kissing your lips and all of those things, and you're just like, please continue, say more, brother. I want to hear. But she was like, you actually need to understand. Having to tell him about your desires, about you're struggling to hold yourself from maybe not wanting to jump on him or all of that. It's not going to help. So don't think having to discuss it with him will help. We just push him to the edge the more. So please try as much as possible. Save that brother. And bro, please save that sister. You don't have to discuss that aspect with her until maybe you guys are close to getting married. Then she said here that your relationship confess your wish and desire to live a sexually pure life. As one, it makes you accountable to each other, and then it sets the standard. And it's usually easier to make those decisions and confessions before you get into that relationship or before you get into that temptation. That way, it's just like a practical example of when I tell you that you're a person who says, I don't eat egg, I'm allergic to egg. Now that is, your mind is made up. It does not matter the color, shape, or sizes of egg I'm bringing your way. You're going to be like, nah, I'm not eating. But imagine when you're like, I could eat egg. I mean, it's not bad. And I could not. When I bring egg your way, you could be tempted to eat it because you have not made up your mind on if you could eat it or you could not eat it compared to a person who is a no-no for him who is allergic to it. So the same way, it's really easier when the temptation is flashing in your eye to pick up the right choice or what to do, like to stand on your ground. What am I saying? So the same way, it's easier to make the choices to live a sexually pure life before the temptation is flashing in your eye. All right, so that brings us to the end of chapter 10. And I feel I should read this thing that Elizabeth Elliot wrote on Passion and Purity. She said, let's be candid with ourselves before God. Call a spade, not a shovel, or even a muddy shovel. If your passions are aroused, say so to yourself and to God, not to the object of your passion. Like if you're burning for desire for this guy, say that, God, help me, I'm burning for desires, teach me what to do. Not telling the guy like, bros, I'm burning for desire for you, what should I do? No, talk to God about it. Then turn the rein over to God. Bring your will to him. Will to obey him, ask for his help. It will not do the obeying for you, but it will help you. Don't ask me why. He knows how. You see, and I can testify about it. He just always knows how to help you. So let's move on to chapter 11, titled Purity. That's secret 5. Now, purity loves its creator at all costs, at any cost. I mean, there was a story she shared in this chat. I'm like, oh, that's one brave fellow. And the subtitle is Pursuing a Relationship with Jesus. So let's quickly run through the celebration story. As I browsed the shelves at a local Christian bookstore, a pretty book with the title and the bright wall white popped out at me. I quickly dismissed it though. I had just ended a fairly serious relationship, and such a title made me uncomfortable. I continued browsing and met my friend at the front of the store to compare finds. She showed me a few books and then handed me one saying, and I thought this one looked interesting. It was on the bright wall white. I decided to take a closer look and then surprised myself by buying it. I did not know it then, but I was on the brink of a brand new life. Looking back, I can clearly see how the Spirit was leading me and preparing me to open the door So wholly accepting Jesus into my life, reading on the bright worldwide helped me to realize that I need to stop searching for fulfillment in romantic flings, and that there is a whole lot more to purity than not having sex until marriage. It has given me a new hope for a future that will be in God's will and a life that is meaningful. The God of the universe loves me, and that knowledge allows me to wake up each day in obedience with joy and expectation. Katie Mess, Pennsylvania. I like the part where she says she realized that purity, sexual purity, goes beyond just not having sex before marriage. So talking about secret 5, purity loves at all cost. She had talked about her relationship with Bob Gresh, and how that they were getting closer, physical and all of that. I need to read the story to you so you could understand it. She said, so yeah, I was in his apartment, standing awkwardly near the door. Come in, he encouraged. I can't, I said, as a tear slipped down my cheek and my lip began to quiver. He had never seen me cry. He quickly began to move towards me with his arm outstretched. No, don't, I softly demanded. Listen to what I have to say first. He stopped with the sofa, the only subject seemingly holding us from each other's arms. I treasure our friendship, I began. I know that you do too, but we have got to be much more in each other's spiritual lives than just someone to sit next to in church. The look in his eyes told me he understood. I was not telling him we could not go on like this. I was not suggesting to him that we could change. I was telling him we could not go on. Our eyes never lost the intent. Direct gaze as tears flooded our faces, desperately wanting to hold each other, but knowing that might lead to more easy choices. We stood staring at each other's pain. After a long silence, he spoke. I know, he whispered, and we continued looking at each other hopelessly. I prayed silently for strength to carry through, as my heart felt as if it was physically ripping within me, and my body felt as if huge boulders were suddenly pushing me toward the floor. Oh God, I said in my head, I have never sacrificed something to you that I hold so dear. I don't know if you will give him back to me, but I would trust you to fill this huge void in my heart someday, somehow. Please, let it be him. Please, my dear Jesus. After nearly a half an hour of standing there in silence of our pain and listening to the clock tick, I turned and quietly opened the door and left. I did not know if the door to this precious relationship would ever be open again. So the gist behind the story is Bob was a boyfriend, and then he loved the Lord, but they were getting physical, the heavy petting, the kissing, the all of that. And she was like, she felt they needed to be much more deliberate and accountable to each other in their walk with God, and this wasn't just going to help. And she was just trying to tell him that they could not go on, so she just had to walk away. But she literally felt her heart shattering, and then she just thought, God, I really love this to be this guy. And then there were some instances whereby they stayed excuse me, they actually stayed like that for a couple of months before God having to bring them back together. And there are instances like that where you're just like, I love this guy, but for your own sanity, for his own sanity too, you both have to separate so you both of you can get your head back together on the track and do this sexual purity again. So she just had to make that tough decision. So she said during that period of the tearing apart, she just held on to this theme of God is enough, Jesus is enough for her. And she just made sure that sat in her head. And she told herself that until she feels a release in her heart, she's not going to date anybody again, either Bob or just anyone. She just really wants to be sure that God again was giving her the release of going ahead. So that brings us to the end of chapter 11. So let's quickly run through chapter 12, which titles Purity Embraces Wise Guidance. And the subtitle is Inviting Your Parents into Your Love Life. I won't even joke with you. I'm African, and if you're an African person, largely that the average teenager or the average African child doesn't have that relationship like that with their parents. Why it's not started them? Mommy, a boy said he loves me today in class. No, okay, at that age you can still go, but still by the time you start crossing to that post teenage, you're just like, what did mom know? That's not true. They were once teenagers like you. They know a whole lot. Let's before I jump ahead, let me continue with this story. So let's read our celebration story. Yeah, Jen Wilton on talking to her mom. It seemed impossible. My mom and I had never really been close. How could I possibly tell her about my past? About the biggest mistake I had ever made? I was terrified of what her reaction would be. A year and a half had passed since I had seen him. I had seen Dannah Gresh on television and communicated with her. She helped me through this difficult time. On several occasions, she brought up the idea of talking to my mom about it. After a long inner struggle one night, I forced myself out of my room and up the stairs to my mom's room. I walked in, sat down, and began to tell her about what had happened over a year and a half ago earlier. I began to cry as I told her what I was still going through and dealing with all the guilt and shame. She did not get angry or upset with me. She just calmly sat and listened to what I had to tell her. She told me she had sat up in her room some nights crying. She had felt so helpless because she saw me day after day crying in my room alone. But she had no idea what was wrong with her little girl. I was amazed at her reaction. I had no idea she cared so much. And oh, the freedom I felt. It was as though something had been lifted off me. And after all this, my mom and I became a whole lot closer. Our relationship just seemed to immediately change. I could now talk to her and open with her about everything because I had nothing left to hide. I mean, look at that, back to my story. African parents, you actually will not know they love you that much because 90% of the time they scream at your head. Go and drop that. Who wants you to take it? Every time you ask for money, I'm not giving you. I think you're like, this man doesn't even love you, this man doesn't even love me. But look at that story. They actually do. I know it might look as if their way of showing the love is a bit outdated or a bit not aligned with yours, but they actually do. So yeah, she was saying that purity embraces wise guidance, and she's talking about talking to your parent about your love life, your relationship, and everything. And then she made a statement which I found quite amusing. She said she realized that most of the girls who had a father figure at home, a present father figure who was there to probably teach them, mentor them through, and all of that, they really had this unnecessary desire for boys. The average teenage girls has boy cravings. Just like how she got cravings. They just have boy cravings. But she said she realized most child who had a father figure at home had less of boy craving because it was just a man to fill up that hole. So why need a boy? She said there was even a little girl that was telling her dad, was like, Dad, all my friends are crazy about boys, but I'm not crazy about boys. Why am I not crazy about boys? Then her dad said, because I'm feeling all the holes for you, so you don't have to be crazy about boys. And then balance this. I understand that with some people, there's something I want to say. Your relationship with your parent is not that you cannot just bring yourself to having to talk about it. But again, as much as you may not want to tell your parent, you should have someone who has that mother figure, that father figure in your life whom you can confide in. You shouldn't be an island that's just floating. So it's not necessarily your parent as much as it will make sense with your parent, but you can just find a wise counselor, a wise guardian and talk to. The Bible also says in the multitude of counselors there is safety. So she's saying here, talking to your parents, talking to your counselors about your love life. Okay, she also said here that girls who actually lack a positive relationship with their fathers actually have a higher risk to be sexually active. Not all, but majorly they have a higher risk to be sexually active. So one major reason why she actually even had to encourage the whole talking to your parent idea. Is, she stated that she was like, if you go through family lines, you see some patterns. Like, realize that alcohol, like drunkard, they usually come from a family of drunkard. People who consume alcohol usually come from family of alcohol takers. Like, you just always see a pattern, like this person took from this person, that person took from this person. A practical example in the Bible was David. David was a man who loved women, such that he was just parading on his palace one of these days, or one of that day, and then he saw Bathsheba, it's a lovely woman, and just has to have her as his wife and kill her husband. And he actually set that pace. He continued like that and added that same thing, that same pattern to Solomon, and Solomon just went overboard. And that's just how it works. We tend to be more like our parents than we can ever realize it. And most of the times, the things we criticize in them, we end up replacing it in our lives. And if care is not taken, we replicate it in a much more worse state or stance than they did. So here she was saying that talk to your parents, talk to your mom, let them have to open up their hearts and share their struggles with you, their temptation, how they overcame it, how they be able to pull through, so that way you are better prepared and equipped to face what's to come. Because there's a shoulder to lean on, there's a shoulder to stand on, not just lean on. And you've learned from their mistakes, and then they've had you prepared for it. So when it comes, it's not coming to take you by surprise or sweep you off your feet. Because just imagine if David had actually sat Solomon down and told him about the disadvantages of too many women in his life, or how women had groomed him, this and that. It might have actually curtailed Solomon from having to marry 700 wives and 300 concubines just to be faithful. So she said that she was like, look for your dad's love language, so you understand when he's telling you I love you indirectly. Some parents, how they say I love you is, can't you see you could have gotten yourself killed? That way they are saying, I care so much about you, I don't want you to die. Why were you not careful? But all you could hear was them screaming and shouting at you. So she was like, find your dad's love language. So next time when it comes from angry, you're like, this man is just indirectly saying he loves me. So find their love language and then work with it. The same way she said, confide in your mother. And she ended this chapter with how Bob finally was a release, and then God released Bob to date her again, and then Bob proposed to her, popped the question. Okay, I know some people are interested in knowing how he popped the question, so I'll just take a snapshot of this and then just display it on the screen so you can see. Alright, so that brings us to the end of chapter 12. Yeah, and that's also the end of episode 3. Thank you so much to everyone who has been following. I really hope you have been blessed. I trust God to bless you more and just expand these teachings in your heart much more than what I said or did not say or left out to say or forgot to say or did not add or include. Thank you so much. See you in the next video.